Today's episode is supported by AIDS-Free Pittsburgh. There are more than 5,000 people living with HIV in southwestern Pennsylvania, and the Ryan White HIV/AIDS program provides support services to help them get the care they need. That includes assistance with things like healthcare, medications, housing, transportation, food, and treatment for substance use disorders. Visit aidsfreepittsburgh.org to learn more.
Today's episode is supported by our friends at the Heinz History Center and their exhibit, Pittsburgh's Hidden History. All the curators got to bring up some of their favorite pieces, all from storage, and a lot of these items are on display for the very first time. You will see a mini dress made of aluminum, old menus from local restaurants, the nostalgia, and a spooky vampiress from an old Kennywood ride. It is such a cool peek into Pittsburgh's past and also the minds of our Heinz History Center curators. And remember, kids 17 and under get free admission to the museum every single day, thanks to the Cayman Free for Kids initiative. For more information and to plan your visit heinzhistorycenter.org. This is CityCast Pittsburgh. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about.
Hey, executive producer Mallory Falk here filling in. I am joined by Alice Crow, the lead Pittsburgh reporter for Technically. Hey, Alice.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So you've been reporting on how the ICE crackdown has been affecting local businesses really on both sides of the counter over the past year. What made you want to tell this story?
Yeah, well, immigrants make an outsized share of Pittsburgh's entrepreneurial community. Some 2023, 2022 data shows that immigrants are 80% more likely to start businesses in the U.S. than native-born citizens. And in the Pittsburgh metro area specifically, there's about 5,700 immigrant entrepreneurs. And that means they're 6% of the entrepreneurs in the area, but they're only 4.2% of the Pittsburgh area's population. So that just shows how much of an outsized share they have in this space. And, last year we saw an increase in ICE raids on local businesses. We saw more arrests in general. And so it got me thinking, how might this be impacting the business community, but then also what are the psychological impacts on immigrant entrepreneurs?
Part of how you told that story, you open with one restaurant owner who's actually had to stop paying herself a salary. Tell me a little bit about her experience and what it represents.
I spoke to her on the condition of anonymity. She was concerned about retaliation, and I really understand why, and I'll get into that. So her business sells a cuisine from a region of South America. Her business is in the Pittsburgh area, and her customers are primarily from the Hispanic community. And she told me that since January 2025, her sales have been steadily dropping. She's seeing way less customers in the store. And, what used to be about $30,000 in revenue per month of in-store sales, it's now $20,000. So she's had to cut back on employee hours, but she's working more than ever, 80 to 85 hours per week. It's led to her to stop paying her salary, and she's had to start putting business expenses on credit cards. But that's not the whole story. It's not just about the monetary impact. It's also the fact that she's been facing racist harassment for the last year. She had to make a police report because people were calling into the restaurant saying, "Go back to Mexico. We're going to call ICE on you." And the fear that creates, led to one of her employees voluntarily going back to his country of origin. But even her other employees who have legal status, or herself, she's an American citizen, they're really scared right now. So it's not just a monetary impact, it's also a psychological one.
And her understanding is fewer people are coming because they are more nervous about just being out and about.
Yeah, that's what I heard from her. And it's also what I heard from business experts, when immigrants are concerned about just being out in public. That is a big hit to, restaurants or other businesses that their primary customer base is other immigrants.
And I mean, hers is just one story. So how do you go about trying to quantify how the surge in ICE arrests and the general fear over ICE is affecting businesses in the Pittsburgh region, like beyond just this anecdote?
Yeah, it is very hard to quantify. There's not a lot of data out there. And especially if people are scared to speak with you on the record, it can be difficult. So what I did is I tried to speak with local business experts, people who work with entrepreneurs every day. And I spoke with a man named Brent Rondon. He works with entrepreneurs at the University of Pittsburgh Small Business Development Center. And he serves all types of entrepreneurs. I should clarify that the Small Business Center helps everybody, but they also offer classes in Spanish, which are primarily attended by new Americans. And about a year ago, about 30% of the people who attended the business classes in Spanish would go on to file applications with the center to start a new business. And he told me that now it's closer to 10%. Mm-hmm. So there's a tangible difference in how many people are filing to create new businesses. And, to the point I made earlier, he said that these disruptions are falling hardest on immigrant-owned businesses whose customer base is also largely immigrants. And since immigrant entrepreneurs disproportionately run service businesses, so think like a restaurant, a hair salon, their revenue relies primarily on foot traffic from communities that are now avoiding public spaces out of fear of enforcement. So, like I said, it's very difficult to quantify, but we know that there is something going on here.
I think during, conversations like this, it's always important to acknowledge that people don't deserve to live in fear, to be disappeared from their communities and separated from their families, like regardless of their quote unquote economic value. But also, you write about how immigrants are contributing to our region's economy, like you said, making up an outshared size of the entrepreneurial community. We've talked on this show before about how the reason the Pittsburgh metro area actually grew over the last couple of years is because of immigrants. But can you talk specifically about that economic impact that immigrants have here?
So some context, new businesses are the main driver of job growth. And since immigrants open businesses at much higher rates than the U.S. population overall, that means that they have an outsized impact on new jobs in the economy. Past creating new jobs, obviously, immigrants in general pay into our economy. In the Pittsburgh area, again, this is 2023 data, but more than $500 million were paid in state and local taxes by immigrants. And then more than $4 billion was spent in the regional economy by immigrants. So there's a huge impact to our economy. And I wrote about this back in 2024. At the time, it was, we need to create more services so that we can integrate immigrants into our economy, because there is such an outsized positive impact, and there is even more that can be unlocked. But I feel like the conversation has really shifted in the last year.
Today's show is supported by the Westmoreland Museum of American Art and their upcoming floral exhibit, Art in Bloom. The Westmoreland's been on my list for a while, and I think that this exhibition is going to be such a fun introduction to the space. I am so excited to see how the curatorial team's setting up Art in Bloom. There's going to be these elaborate creations from floral designers who are all taking inspiration from the art the Westmoreland has on display. And you can vote for your favorite floral design in the People's Choice Awards. Sign up for floral arrangement workshops and demos, or just lean into the spring theme and celebrate with a tea party at the museum. Art in Bloom is running for just 5 days, so don't miss your chance to bask in all the colors and all the pretty scents. Admission's $10 for non-members, March 25th through 28th, and totally free on the final day of the show, March 29th. Advanced registration for all days is recommended. To register or learn more, visit thewestmoreland.org.
Today's episode is sponsored by Liberty Magic, Pittsburgh's premier speakeasy theater dedicated to the art of elevating magic. Liberty Magic is presenting Jonathan Levitt in Reality Reinvented, a show that explores our shared emotions and connections to each other. Jonathan is apparently the real deal. He's in Pittsburgh after performances in Las Vegas, and you may have seen some of his work already. So think movies like Now You See Me and shows like The X-Files. He's also a private magician for celebrities like Cindy Crawford, Nicolas Cage, and Sean Penn. Okay. You can see Jonathan in Reality Reinvented March 5th through 29th. And if you're feeling extra adventurous, consider upgrading to their Skeleton Key VIP experience. You get reserved seating right up front, plus there's a meet and greet after the show. Get your tickets at trustarts.org/magic before they disappear.
Today's show is supported by the Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh. Think about the last time you walked into a library. Maybe you were picking up your next great read, bringing your child to story time, studying for a test, or just looking for a quiet place to focus. In Pittsburgh, a lot of great stories start at the library. At Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh, people of all ages come to read, learn, and discover something new. And April 1st is Library Giving Day, a nationwide day to support the libraries that help our communities grow. Your gift keeps books, programs, and essential library services free for everyone. From early literacy to tutoring, job resources, and engaging learning opportunities that spark curiosity. So mark your calendar for April 1st. Donate at carnegielibrary.org/give. That's carnegielibrary.org/give to support Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh on Library Giving Day.
Let's actually talk about this increase in raids and arrests. Give us a sense of how much arrests have gone up here.
It's difficult to quantify because the data that we have from ICE is somewhat incomplete. But for context, back in summer 2024, there would be about 25 to 40 arrests every month. And then in 2025, the last summer, we had closer to 130 arrests each month. So a really sharp increase over that year.
And I know more recent data isn't available yet, but it at least seems like operations have scaled up even more in the past several months.
Yeah, we don't have any data past mid-October 2025. And that's something that, is going to become a problem, I think, with telling these stories or trying to inform the public about what's going on, because we just don't have the data to share.
I know you said it was more challenging to report this article than the one you wrote a couple of years ago. People were concerned about retaliation and didn't want to go on the record. What kind of concerns did you hear from people? Talk a little bit about the process of just trying to report this story.
What happened for me was, I saw the increase in arrests. I saw the increase in the raids. And, after reporting on immigrant entrepreneurship in the past, I thought, well, what's the effect? So I started calling around to people I knew, and people were generally scared about drawing attention to themselves in any way. That's why the business owner that is at the top of my story, she was willing to talk to me, but she needed to be completely anonymous. Not even initials of her name. Mm-hmm. She was scared about what that could bring, what kind of negative attention that could bring to her. And, there was a recent public source article that kind of speaks to this, that even business owners who are not immigrants, who are just speaking out about how they don't like ICE enforcement tactics, they can receive backlash that affects their business. And that's the problem with business reporting in general. People are always really concerned about the monetary impact of speaking out. And I think also there is an element of, in the last year, we actually have seen retaliation on the federal level. Let's think about to the universities, for example, pulling back on federal funding. So I think that there is serious fear, and it doesn't come from nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, in your story, you talked to several people who work with immigrant business owners and entrepreneurs, folks who, run programs that provide support and resources. Did they point to anything that can help right now?
And this is not something that anyone in the story told me to do. But I think what I've gathered from reporting is that if you have the funds, you need to shop local, you need to buy local, to replace the foot traffic that's been lost. You know, if people are scared to be in public, you need to replace those customers. Also, if you see ICE in the area, you can also call advocacy groups, Casa San Jose, Frontline Dignity. They're both local groups that have hotlines that they're trying to track ICE activity. So you can call those numbers. And then the last thing I'll say is that it's really important, especially if you are not someone who is so directly affected by increased ICE enforcement, that you speak out against it if you are opposed to it. But it is one of the things that has upset me about writing this, is that people are scared to speak about their own experiences. So yeah, if you oppose something, you should say so.
And those emergency numbers you can call if you witness ICE activity, the number for Casa San Jose is 412-736-7167. And Frontline Dignity's number is 412-536-6423. You can also remember it as 412-53-NO-ICE. We will have a link in our show notes to Alice's great reporting. Alice, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. If you like what we do here, consider supporting us by becoming a CityCast Pittsburgh neighbor. You can do that at membership.citycast.fm. We will be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Talk to you soon. Oh man, I'm really tongue-tied today. Are you a marketing and social media genius who wants to help spread the word about CityCast Pittsburgh? Or do you have expertise and some hot takes on local topics like transit, housing, politics, and culture? CityCast Pittsburgh is hiring a full-time audience development manager. And we're looking for podcast contributors to join us for lively and informative conversations on the show. If you are creative, thoughtful, and plugged into what Pittsburgh cares about, you could be a great fit. Learn more about the positions and apply at citycast.fm/jobs. You've got until March 16th to apply, so head on over now to citycast.fm/jobs.